Hey guys, JT here, and to see the truth, you must destitute your mind, then focus on the black point that lays so deep inside. Take what brightness is in your heart and turn it down to low. Contrast your thoughts against the mark, and finally you will know. These are some of Jane's writings, by the way. Her Zanes. This isn't all of them, but this sort of gives you her thoughts on certain things. And I apologize, Pendog team, for kind of scrolling through this. Got a lot to explore. And the invitation should be taped back together, however messily. And apparently somebody's trying to do that. The Mother and the Someone I'll read full because this is basically Jane at her limit. Like she's done and needs to be refreshed because some of it's not popping up for whatever reason. There we go. I thought were getting better. I thought I was getting better, but they aren't. I'm not. I'm still the same old plain Jane that got thrown away. I wish it would all end, but I'm a coward. I don't have much time left. My loans are soon to enter repayment and homelessness is looking inevitable. These Zines used to be a way used to be the way I distributed my thoughts, but my thoughts will never be heard again, I'm afraid. I thought I've made my peace with with death, but oh God, I don't want to be homeless. I don't want to die. It's so unfair. In our country and across the world, there is a view of parenthood as ownership. The umbilical cord is cut when the child is born, but the memory of it remains as a leash tied to the child's neck. They are as powerless as a pet, and in the worst cases, they are treated as one. The parent who underestimated the responsibilities of raising a child, neglecting the youngling like a forgotten lizard snake or hamster, tucked away in some dusty cage and barely hanging on to life. Sometimes the parent takes care of a child the same way one might a pet, but there is not much better. But that is not much better. They do not hit or hurt the child, but do the bare minimum, feeding them, washing them, from carting them from one place to another. They do not love or cherish their child. They do not see them as anything other than a responsibility, but to be fulfilled, not a thinking human being. The absolute power a parent holds over their child is like that of the sun over the earth. The child is pulled into orbit, going through a selective, narrow set of experiences. Sometimes the child tries to pull away and they are burnt in the process, something the parent might use to say, "See, look what happened. The world's a harsh place, and now you realize that you should have listened to me." And the child will, fearful of the growing pains involved in orbiting independence, cling closer to the parent's every word. Of course, the parents will omit that they have been dangling the child over the flames the entire time. A child is not the earth to the parent. They are a dead, lifeless planet, or maybe even a forgotten moon. They do not have the capacity of warmth or joy, life or joy, or any sort of human emotion. They're just a barren place for the parent to cultivate their own intentions, ideas, and personalities upon. Child acting out is a behavior to be beaten or screamed out of them, not to be understood or empathized with any device is an abhorrent factor in their grand plan. There is nothing to a child but a cold shell that holds the keys to reliving their youth and enticing their vision of how the world should be. The world we live in claims to need more children. All the time, you see it on the news and scientific articles, fear mongering about declining birth rates. But the children we have now, how do we treat them? Horribly. At what point do we start treating these children like actual thinking beings that are capable of experiencing pain, emotions, and individuality separate from those who birthed them? Until the day arrives, the day that adults realize or care that children can experience things beyond their parents' limited worldview, things will not get better. Lately, I've been trying to go on more walks. The weather is awful, and the sun burns me just as much as my mother's loathing. But I want to experience life as much as I can before it is snatched away. It's it's everything I can do to not break down in public, to run to anyone I see and beg them for help. Nobody can help me now. I already asked for help and was told plainly that it was toxic and oversharing to ask. I hope their digital safe haven rots. That all the safe spaces and good vibes only forums and group chats and servers can corroborate and die. And servers corroborate and die. Let them see how miserable and helpless it can get when you are someone like me. I wish there was a way out, a way to escape the sun and hide away when she doesn't scorch me and burn me. And yet I don't see any way out of this. I don't see any way out of this. And the way that she did take out was the Colts. Yeah, I feel bad for Jane. Like it kind of pains me seeing this. And maybe this is me having a, main character complex or whatever, but I hate seeing people go through shit that they don't deserve. And yes, Jane's done some not so great things. It's mentioned in the ARG that she was a little too parasocial with Penny, allegedly, but she was somebody who needed to reach out and help, wanted help, and nobody answered her call. Or they told her, like was mentioned above, oh, it's oversharing, it's toxic. And I get forums and stuff might not be the best place to post that, but it's like, where would one go? You know? Oh, therapy. uh, my friend, Old Glory doesn't see Old Glory thinks that the best therapy out there is telling somebody to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. That will just solve all your issues. It's just pull yourself up by your bootstraps, apparently. There's no way out of this situation on my own. I've tried. There's just no way out. Others might be able to pull me out, but they value comfort over any actual action. It's easier to claim you're an ally and an activist for change than it is to actually deal with the people victimized by the country we live in. Not that I deserve it. I've been cruel. I've been unkind. I deserve everything I have coming. But so do a lot of people that did me wrong. I hope my spite outlives me at least, that it can manifest in some tangible way that makes them regret hurting me and not helping me. That makes them regret laughing at my situation, that tears them into ribbons, that cuts their ribbons, that pulls them apart and fills them with deep blue sadness, that throws them down to the deepest, murkiest, blackest pit so they can know how I've felt and experience a fraction of empathy. Unfortunately, things like that don't happen. This is the real world, and there are no miracles. There's no magic, there's no justice. I didn't even get to finish my Zine for Slishy Slasher, so she'll remain as bitter and angry and lacking of resolution and closure as I am. I really wanted to give her a happy ending. I really wanted to have a happy ending. I really wanted to have a happy ending. In the live stream walkthrough of the Update before this about Beatrice. Co-creator Sushi Cat may or may not have hinted that somebody named Penny was taping these together. Now, as for you, Slishy, I believe you wanted to go for. I believe we have a walk to go on. A nice walk, isn't it? The city is nice and chilly, and the moon's never been clearer. Nights like these, I remember when it was just me and another Jane, and another Jane. Walking along the streets and breathing, shivering beneath the cold, but we didn't care, because it remind, reminded us we were alive and we were grateful to be alive. We'd walk past the people all connected to their own stories. It felt comfort in being connected to our own. Hundreds of strangers passing by each other to night classes and family dinners, each and every one isolated during the walk in their meditations. I miss those nights, so I'm grateful you are taking this walk to me. Anytime, Slasher. I don't mind. I like a good walk, just not at night, but maybe I'll do that. Maybe I can offer you something, though. I've seen you around, poking your nose into badger dens and flailing about confused when your hand comes out bitten. Not judging, not judging. Jane was the same way. With people, she convinced herself she was fine with loneliness, but when someone she thought was cool showed interest in her work, she felt those cold waters turn into gasoline. And the gasoline clouded her mind. Relationships are intoxicating, but unavoidable. It was only a matter of time before she opened herself back up, stuck her hand into the unknown to grasp the hand of another. Would you like something else to scratch at? If you insist. It was nice, really nice at first, but I wanted more. And she wanted to keep things the same. Both of us feared the ulterior, the possibility of a defeating end. Some way or another, we did survive for a time in that space, trading back and forth pictures and drawings of dogs and fireflies. By any chance, was the dog named Maisie and the firefly Millie? We had been alone so long we thought we could do no harm. To have such an exhilarating comfort of someone we felt safe to talk to. Did we feel safe, though? Sometimes we didn't. Sometimes we felt saying too much or not enough would kill the flower, and conversation became a tightrope of adjusting and fine tuning the weight and volumes of words. When we first got kicked to the curb, it took a while to raise her face to the sun again. When she did, she really did try at first to reflect on events, to go, oh, this is why it happened. It was my fault, but things quickly went downhill as a cycle of thought turned around and around inside her head. She began to feel angry. She began to feel afraid. The pressures of other things in her life crept into the narrative, making her feel as they had been connected all along. Everyone knew everyone, and everyone was an enemy. Everyone was trying to take away her friends and joy. Personal comment, I do feel this sometimes, where I'll get nervous if, like, somebody I know happens to know or associate with somebody that might not like me, or I may have burned bridges with because I had to do something stupid. Her mind would invent reasons for her to be the victim in this horror movie. She had been the final girl her entire life, so clearly this recent rejection was another asshole in a long chain of abusers who had hounded her since birth and kept her away from the fires within fire whenever she tried to get warm. Her mind would play tricks on her, misremembering events and words, looking deeper into the use of words and finding that one word in a sentence was colder than the others, that the letter lacked the warmth of the rest. Everywhere she went, she was held at arm's length. Quickly, she learned that justice was a concrete meaning, and that to make someone unhappy was the first step to social exile. There were periods when she would feel better, when the light of accountability and self-reflection shone through the dark clouds. She would go, "I understand. This is what I did wrong, and I don't hate them anymore. I understand why I'm no longer allowed around them. I'm willing to move on and make new friends." She would fall asleep with her mind at ease and wake up the next day full of rage and loathing, her mind switched like a stoplight and projection once again blaming anyone but herself. I helped to pull the switch a little. It's just in my nature when someone hurts me, I don't forget, no matter who hurt who first. Separation was a violence to me. Reprimandation was an act of assault. It was a draining thing to feel so completely angry and alone and battle against your thoughts. With debit and homelessness creeping in, she began to lash out further, with my hand helping to guide the blade and reaffirm her belief that hate is a just act when it's someone who cut you off. Eventually, she would withdraw, unwelcome from everywhere, an emotion felon buried from 50 states and forms and alone in her small house with nothing but me in her head. Every day she would cry out, "This is so unfair. Somebody help me, please. I can't help myself out of this alone." For everyone knew to steer clear. To be unpleasant to others means to bear the consequence. To be allowed to fall into poverty, debit, homelessness, and gender related violence was the greatest act of justice within the world of those who had to focus on more important topics like why it's counterculture to drink and drive, why should I have to wash my hands, and to wear a mask is violence, why it's radical to cheat on my partner. She grew angry, she grew sadder. She grew angry. She grew sadder. Eventually, the land died, and nothing grew at all. Shying away in her room, waiting for eviction day, days slipping out of her clenched fingers, she would ultimately create a theory of why she had been mistreated, and it was because of them. It was because of them, she thought, because she had only been trying to be nice and connect and protect her new friendship, but the others had been stupid and blunt and selfish and not bothered to check in on her situation to help her find safety or even learn how to find safety on her own. She theorized and knew as immediately as it had appeared in her thoughts that this was true and that the reason others disliked her was not for the fabled behavior of stalking and saying shit about them behind their backs, but because there was something different about her everyone else could see that made them compile to enact cruelties upon her, and yes, they were cruelties, for how could anyone see someone who had suffered as much as she had up until now and then decide to not answer her messages on schedule or make time for her? How could anyone be so cruel unless they were some secret others that carved to enact violence on her for her condition, and if they were a secret other and the world accepted other violence against her, violence defined as the act of separating and putting one's foot down or saying, "Please leave me alone," then the world must be broken up entirely of a other that was not secret and instead in plain view and was an abhorrent in the toolbox that had been used to construct a reality built on connections between people who could climb over each other to get to shake the hand of the person at top. Keep in mind as well, Jane does have autism. She's on the spectrum. So, and from personal spirits, as um somebody who has autism who tries to socialize online, it can be hard at times. Yeah, Jane, I feel like I relate to you in more ways than one. Apologies, Slishy. I had to leave your walk for a second to blow my nose. As you were saying, and in this way, she decided that the reason she had been shunned was for an immortal reason, and this, the expression of a boundary, was illegitimate and faulty and aimed towards her in violence, and that for this she was socially justified to strike back twice and mean her with words even she didn't believe that, but that caused just as much harm regardless of intent. She knew that with the expression of retaliation against those who had flung her aside with when she bit her their hands, she could eventually garner back their favors in the form of tears, favor defined as the attention obtained by any means necessary. And although the desire for attention could be labeled as determinal to prospect in the 21st century, was nevertheless a stimulant important to the function body of a human animal that stood on two legs and held video conferences, but regardless, was a beast that used to sit in the field and gathered to others for comfort and sympathy. Uh-oh. So if the rejection of community from strangers she had not known the faces of meant that she was marked with the mark of a problem, and this could not be allowed, the discard garden of communication with the people you want to garden with, then the mark must be just, but not in all levels, but in a form that went so high before stopping at the precise of mortality. So thus only could this mark just be just within the system that could be marked against for its many failures, and thus all the people in it too must be unjust and licking their lips at the thought of dining on her and hurting her just the same way her mother and peers had preyed upon her, and this she decided meant any action of discomfort or separation taken towards her must be unjust and intent from demons wearing the faces of people who she had trusted and had put effort and sorry, Slishy, I'm having trouble reading this. You're all over the place. I don't feel comfortable around you. Please leave me be. There could be no other reason. There couldn't be. She lived in a world of justice, and if justice was to be believed, then for the failures of every relationship, a case must be formed to determine who is good and who is at fault. And if at fault, then the many faced judges wearing your own face deep in the center will determine that your actions were of pure malice and present you with a certificate acknowledge that you are a being of mortal failings, and that you must sit with this certificate for the rest of your life, chasing shadows of the people who want to stay away and thinking that there is no point in getting better because this certificate that lies in your hands is proof that you are inherently evil and vile and must stay in your assigned seat for the rest of your life. And so, sat there at the bottom of herself, chewing on the remains of memories and conversations had long ago waiting for their source to return on hands and knees, pleading for the new conversation. In her mind, she likes to pretend she would reject them and fling them into the many relationships below. But truthfully, she knows she would also get on her hands and knees and beg for a future of nothing but uneasy smiles and trying to keep things cozy. The thought fills her with bile, and as the day till the eviction nears, she lays in her bed, gleeful for the moment that the pain goes away, that and that her mind no longer whirls around between the thought after flipping back after thought, flipping back and forth between the views she had as a person she will never see again. On a day she is forced outside to the side the house to walk and did not take up space, she stumbles into a teacher she had not seen since high school, and she is told that there is a program for people like her. She tries to mumble out a response of no thank you, but in that moment her desperation is seized, and she begs and pleads for salvation that she feels unworthy of receiving. The teacher, who she vaguely remembers having left town many years ago, explains away her resignation as due to conflicts of textbook content and morality, smiles. She wears baggy clothes that seem too damp for the summer air, and there's a smell of something Jane has not smelled for years. Something not of this suburban place. No, is the ocean water, and at the moment she feels peace and she feels the capacity to let down her guard around someone who is much too nice in contrast to hazy memories of an old crone raving about books and their purity. Nobody has bothered to smile at Jane in years, a warm, comforting smile. She says she can tell Jane is lacking community here and tells her that she can stay with her, that there is a community she would like her to meet, one with plenty of capacity to make not only the loneliness go away, but the money and debit collectors go away too. Jane takes her hand and they. Maybe in the future we can take another walk. At the lowest point, she cried in vain, towards the sunrise that scorched her with shuddering rays, sun on the side of the sky that trembles and lies, the evening of the world that quakes and withers. Well, this part is new. Oh, we got something, but it's gonna have to wait till the next part. I'm sorry, guys, but hey, JT signing out. When we come back next time, it's snowing.